And now the time we've all waited for. It is the return of the Spirit Show with none other than legendary songwriter, producer, manager, promoter, co-creator of Woodstock and its only promoter, Artie Kornfeld.
It's me. Welcome to the Spirit Show. Special show tonight. A band that I've been into for so long, you know. I came in the 50s, you know, but when they came around, I certainly picked up on them. And that was Foghat. You know, and tonight we have one of the founders of Foghat and Savoy Brown, who also played with Spencer Davis, Roger-Earl, probably one of the best rock drummers to come around in our lives. It's really a pleasure to have you people, and it's a pleasure listening to the bands that are unknown. You know, it's a great thing. You know, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Why do I want to hear it? Because it's one of my favorite. As a producer, it's one of my favorite productions, and as a fan of music, you know, it's great, you know, and we're going to get Roger Earl on because he has a lot to talk about and a lot of music to play. And Foghat still lives. And right now, I'm going to put on Born for the Road by Foghat and get Roger Earl with us.
Well, I'm rushing to the airport. Time is running late. No
Mr. Roger Earl, all the way from Oil, Mr. Roger Oil or Earl, from Foghat and Savoy.
It's cheap royalty.
Yeah, really, and also, you were in Savoy Brown at the beginning, weren't you? Of the band.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. I joined about a year after they formed. I joined actually about 2 years after they formed. I joined them in '67, and I came to the States at the tail end of '68. And we spent a lot of time over here. It was like coming home the first time we came to the States. I think it was in end of '68, and we arrived at JFK, and they searched us, and then we sort of got into limos, which you'd never been in before, and spent the next couple of days in Manhattan. Well, that was like a kid in a candy store for me. I couldn't go to sleep, so about 2 o'clock in the morning, I come out of the hotel. It was at Lowe's Midtown. And I realised I'm getting hungry. I'm walking around like 2 o'clock, but I mean, everything's going on. People around, everything's going on. I go into a deli, Smilers, and I say, can I have a roast beef sandwich, please? And they said, yeah. And I said, can you put some butter on that? And they looked at me like I was following a little bit of salt.
I know, they called the bouncer, right?
Nah. And so they give me this sandwich on a bun, and there's like that 1.5 inches or more, maybe even 2 inches of roast beef. Now, where I grew up, you were lucky if you'd have one slice of roast beef in between 2 slices of white bread with some butter, and it's probably like shoe leather. But this sandwich was, and lasted me 2 days.
Well, I'll tell you one. If it was a kosher deli, being Jewish, I would tell you Jews eat.
Well, it was Smilers. It was Smilers a kosher deli?
Yeah, it is. It's a kosher deli. You don't walk out of a good kosher deli unless
it's not. It's not a deli unless it's kosher, right?
Yeah, that's kosher.
Right.
Especially if they had corned beef and pastrami, it's definitely kosher.
Well, I learned about that later on. I didn't understand the finer things in life at the moment. In the Fillmore East, there was a fantastic deli right next door to that. Do you remember what it was called?
No, I don't. I really don't. In New York?
Don't. Yeah, in New York. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about London now.
No, there's no Fillmore in London. No. Fillmore East in New York. There was a great deli right next door.
Yeah.
And delis, what a wonderful institution.
Oh, yeah, it was. And by the way, Foghat's been a wonderful institution, too, musically. The fact that you kept it going that long. I mean, I'm in my sixth decade, because my first record came out in 58, and you're right behind me. You're like in your fourth decade or fifth decade making music.
Well, just because I'm not doing enough with Foghat, I started another band called Earl and the Agitators.
Really? That's great.
Yeah. Well, what happened was when we were making our current album, which is finished now, should be out middle of June or July. It's called Under the Influence. It's just like the old days. We go out and play for free.
Right. You know why? And this is a segue. Otherwise, you wind up flat busted.
12, isn't it?
Yeah, and I know what it's like to play for 10,000, and I know what it's like to play for 10,000 people, and I know what it's like to play for 50. You know,
Okay. So why wasn't Savoy Brown at Woodstock?
Why wasn't Savoy Brown at Woodstock? Actually, I was doing the whole. Well, I don't know why.
Well, because we were in San Francisco playing at some ballroom out there.
That's right, and there was also another.
We were on the wrong side of the country, weren't we?
Yeah, no, you were just where you were supposed to be. You know, obviously you weren't supposed to play Woodstock, right? We used the American Indian higher power thing. You know, the powers didn't want you to be there on that night, so you weren't there. You know, but it's okay because
that's all right. We were somewhere else.
You were somewhere else, and you know what? They needed you where you were.
Yeah. We had a good time there. San Francisco was something else back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was involved.
It is actually a beautiful city. I love it there. I love going there. I love walking around there.
Oh yeah, I was the main speaker when Boots threw there was 100,000 people free, and I was the main speaker, and I spoke to 100,000 people at the Golden Gate Park to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Summer of Love. So it was, that was really a great experience. You know, it brought back the days that were, but in a positive way. You know, it was really great, and and it was great seeing my friends. Except we were all so much older. maybe they looked older and I didn't. And who cares anyway? Because the days go by, don't they?
Right.
You notice.
So where are you located?
I'm in Delray Beach, next to Palm Beach, in Florida.
Okay. I go down there from time to time. We have a studio in DeLand.
Really?
You know where that is? It's in between Orlando and New Smyrna Beach. And I've got a little place out in the middle of nowhere in Cedar Key. I like to go out there and go fishing in the backwaters in the winter.
Right, and you live on the island, right?
Yeah, I'm out on Long Island in East Setauket, Port Jefferson.
Right.
Nice.
Well, I graduated high school. I graduated high school on Long Island.
Did you where?
Yeah, Levittown Division.
I know where that is.
Yeah,
it's not far from me. I
was a dragon, man. I was a Division Avenue dragon. I even led it in 5 sports. I was an athlete in those days. Now, if I make it from the bedroom to the kitchen, which I do a lot late at night, it's a big walk.
Well, no, bedroom and the kitchen, they're 2 important rooms in the house. In fact,
especially
the 2 most
after
important rooms in the house.
Oh, and after 10 o'clock at night on an off night, they're definitely important.
Yeah. That's where we keep the food, and upstairs where we keep the love.
Right. Well, you don't have a Costco near you, do you? They have a great popcorn with caramel that's incredible. So if you ever go into a Costco, remember that. I just happen to know those foods. I'm not a big popcorn fan, but I grow all my vegetables. I have a garden that I set up. Actually, I don't really do anything about it until about the middle of May. But I grow all my own vegetables and I fish, so there's always sort of plenty of fresh fish on the table if I get a chance. But during the summer, unfortunately, or fortunately, we play a lot. So, but there again, that's usually on weekends. So, when I go out on the ocean or the Sound, it's pretty empty during the week. All right, now I'm going to go a little. I'm going to go a little musical on you because I really am curious about. I read about it, but from you and the way you saw it, how did Foghat get together, and what do you think you had that made you happen? But how did it come together?
Albert Grossman.
He was the
one who gave us our shot. 3 of us came from a band called Savoy Brown in the late 60s, and then me and Lonesome Dave left and we formed Foghat. and we'd made some demos and stuff. We couldn't get anybody interested in us because the manager from Savoy Brown, a guy called Harry Simmons, told us that we would never work again in England, and true to his word, he stopped us from working. Well, he managed Savoy Brown and Chicken Shack, which were two of the biggest bands at the time. So, but Derek Taylor, who was the Beatles publicist, took a liking to the band, and he helped us out and got us some dates. And our manager at the time, Tony Otida, was friends with Albert Grossman. And Albert Grossman was coming over to England with the band. And we rented this little club one afternoon in Islington in North London, which is sort of near where the Arsenal football ground is. Are you a football fan?
Chelsea.
Oh, the enemy. Well, we won't talk to you about that anymore.
Boy, what are you? You're not Manchester United, are you?
No, Arsenal. There's only one team in London, Arsenal. Though there are some in this world that would take umbrage with that. Anyway, to get back to the story, we rented this little room up in Islington, and we set up our amps and stuff, Marshalls and Hi-Watts and stuff. And Albert came down, and it was in the afternoon, and he was sat about 15, 20 feet from us. He sat down in the chair, and we started playing, and he visibly like jumped back a little bit. Anyway, we played about 6 songs for us, and anyway, after that, Albert came over to me and he said, "So, is there anywhere like we can get some tea and biscuits?" I said, "Yeah, there's like a hotel across the road. We can go over there." So we go over there and we sit down. Albert orders tea and biscuits for everybody, the band and our manager and Albert. And we're sitting there. And so anyway, the tea and biscuits arrive, and Albert says, "Well, okay, let's do it." Do you remember when Albert used to have this thing where he would play with his cuticles, right?
Right. Like yes, I do.
Yeah, I do. Anyway, he's sitting there and knowing Albert Grossman, he was the manager of Bob Dylan, the band, Peter, Paul and Mary,
Janis Joplin at one point,
Janis Joplin,
Paul Butterfield, Todd Rundgren. It just goes on and on. I mean,
if Albert says, "Well, let's do it," that means it's going to get done. I even now get chills. So the reason we got our start was through Albert. Everybody else that our manager played our records to turned us down. Every major record company, every minor record company. But Albert saw something in us that nobody else did, or rather heard something in us that nobody else did. So I'm eternally grateful to Albert. In fact, I used to hang out with him from time to time. I lived up in Woodstock for a while, and Bearsville, and I borrowed his fishing rods, his fire rods a couple of times, and I used to go over his house, and in his kitchen, he had 3 huge refrigerators, these like monster refrigerators, and he'd go to one, and he'd pull a little jar out of something, and he'd say, "Have you had any of this?" And I'd say, "No." And he'd put it back in the fridge. And he'd go to 2 or 3 of his fridges and pull stuff out and ask me if I've had any of it. Then eventually he would pull something out and say, "Have you had any of this?" And I'd say, "Yeah." He said, "Would you like some more?" Albert. I loved Albert.
You're cracking me up because he was a very good... You know what? I spent a lot of nights with Albert, and we were very good friends. As a matter of fact, when I got screwed on the Woodstock movie, the reason Albert's acts are not in the Woodstock movie that played is he didn't care about the money. He banned his acts playing, in the movie. And that's why they weren't in. Now, I think it was wrong because he was hurting the acts. But he was really standing up for his friendship for Michael Lang, my partner, and myself. So Albert, and he also then afterwards he helped me keep the company alive as I did the fight, which I finally gave up on because I didn't do Woodstock for the bread anyway. I didn't even know what it was going to be. So I loved Albert. You talk about. You know it. We used to go to. Did you ever go to this place in New York that he had on Gramercy Park? It was on a park. And anyway.
No, I don't think. No, I didn't do that. I used to go to the record company up there, because Warner Brothers was the parent company of Bearsville.
Right.
And I went up there a few times, but I never went to his place in New York. Though I did hang out with him up in Woodstock.
I miss him. You know what? I've been in the business since 58. It's a long time. And Albert is one of the characters, and also behind everything else, he was also one of the nicest guys. And he managed Richie Havens too, and Richie was a good friend of mine. So I got to know Albert.
Yeah, I saw Richie a number of times.
Yeah, I know him before he built Bearsville. Thank you. Okay, so let me get us brought up now. Okay, so you meet Albert and you go in the studio, and
right.
When did things start to happen?
We went in the studio. We put in Wales. It was a place called Rockfield, and that was where we met our producer. Well, he wasn't our producer at the time, Dave Edmonds, on our first album. Now, we were sort of producing the first record ourselves, but it wasn't going as well as we'd liked. Anyway, Dave Edmonds had the midnight shift from about midnight until midday the next day, and we would take over the studio from there, from like midday up until Dave came in. So anyway, things would cross over a little bit, and we needed a little bit of a helping hand because we kind of knew what we were doing, but we weren't very good at it. We could play, but as far as producing, that's another monster. So we asked Dave Edmonds if he would produce our album, and he said, "Sure, I'd do that." Anyway, with that, I don't think the album would have been anywhere near as good as it turned out, unless Dave Edmonds had come on board. Anyway, that was the start of that. We released the record over here in the States and in Europe. We did a 3-week tour in England that Derek Taylor, in fact, got for us, supporting Captain Beefheart. That was a lot of fun. And then after that tour ended, about a month later, we got a call from the States that I Just Want to Make Love to You, which was a song recorded by Muddy Waters, written by Willie Dixon, was charting. So that was the song off the first album. So we came over here and we spent 13 months, I think, on our first tour. In fact, the first show we did was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, but we couldn't get paid because we hadn't got our, I think it was H2 visas you had to have to get paid. So we played for free. Now, at the time, we said to the people in Oshkosh, it was in the park there, it was a city thing, that we couldn't take the money. And lo and behold, when we got our visas through, they sent us the money. I thought that was really nice. You know, people in the Midwest, they say, are the very best. I have some good friends who live out there. And then off we went. 13 months later, I went back to England, and my daughter was walking and said, "Who are you?" My wife said, "Who are you?" And about 3 months later, we started working on the next album, and then about 3 months later, we came back to the States and spent another 9 or 10 months here. And after that, I always wanted to live here anyway. It was sort of like coming home when the first time I came here. So you guys just talk a little funny, but that's all right.
What point did you, as you were starting to happen, because, those of us who did have that blessing to happen, I mean, at what point did you say to yourself, you know what, guys, I think we're where we're supposed to be?
That 1973, we released our album, the Energized album, and Warner Brothers put a whole bunch of money behind it because the band was doing really well live, and that was our first gold record.
Was that Russ? Was Russ Thyrett the head of promotion then?
Yeah, in fact, I met Russ about a year ago. He lived out in California, and I met him in Ojai, where our agency is, Paradise Artists.
Yeah.
And I met Russ there with his wife, and I recognized him. He looked very well.
And very big.
Back in the early 70s, they were a pretty crazy bunch, weren't they?
Oh, I knew them all. I knew everybody in that building. Charlie Lake. I was writing with Russ Titleman, who was there, and there was Mo Austin and his kids. It was pretty crazy.
Mo was beautiful, wasn't he? Beautiful man, Mo.
Yeah. You see, I go back with these guys to '58, so I knew them when they were young and on the way up. So when they got to wherever they were going to go, it was good to see because these were guys that were friends years before. I basically hung out with the musicians I was in the studio with because you tend to hang out. If you're wherever a musician or a writer or a player, you tend to be more comfortable when you're with people that have done that. because you have a whole other world that you live, that, you're just like everybody else living a regular life, because we all live the same life, but you're doing something that we're so lucky that we get to do something that we love to do and actually make a living at it.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I know how fortunate I am. It's like, I get to earn a really good living at something I really love and enjoy. My first two wives have forgiven me because I was probably a much better boyfriend and they shouldn't have married me, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But they've forgiven me now, and, so we have an extended family, so everything is all right now. But, it's rough, when you're traveling as a musician and going away for sort of like almost years on end. But music is like that. It grabs you. You don't.
So was that album that you really felt that you had just started to go into your really good period?
Yeah. There was the first album, which was just Foghat. The second album, which was rock and roll, and then the third album, I think, is Energized. That was when things really started to take off. 1973, somewhere around there. 74. Then, of course, we did the Fall for the City album in 1975, and that went double platinum, and we had 2 hit records off of that, Fall for the City and Stow Ride. So all hell broke loose after that, and a lot of fun was had.
Well, you know why I liked your band, and I had access to every band, and I had some very big bands. But the reason I liked your band was I'm a songwriter, and I liked the fact that you had great rhythm and great tracks, but that you also had great lyrics in your songs, and really had messages in your songs, and they had feeling in them, and you guys are good songwriters.
Well, thank you. But
you really are.
Another duo of songwriters wrote, I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it. And that's kind of how we were. In fact, Lonesome Dave, our old singer, God rest his soul, once said, well, Foghat's like a blues band, except we turned it up to 11.
I know, and you used to flange the bass, right?
Oh, right, and it's like my older brother once said to me, and it stayed with me for a long time because it had the ring of truth. He said, anything other than 3 chords has to be viewed with a certain amount of suspicion. So I remember we were doing the Fall for the City album. We were recording it up in Sharon, Vermont, a mountain in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Sunfeather Studios, it was called. And after we'd been working on Fall for the City, the track, and we got back to the house. We had a house up there that we were staying at, and we got back to the house. And I said, "Yeah, Dave, how many chords does Fall for the City have in it?" And he knew where I was going with it. He said, "It's okay, Rog." He said, "There's only 3 chords in there," but he said the other ones are just passing chords. They don't matter.
Let me ask you something. What record that was number 1 only had 2 chords through the whole song?
I don't know. This is why I don't go in for game shows.
Well, you know what it was? It was
Go tell me. What
it was Dancing in the Street.
Oh, Dancing in the Street.
Yeah, because the only change is I forgot the chord when they go into there'll be music, simply music, there'll be music, and then they go back to C, and they go running out around the world. Are you ready? Yeah, it was only 2 chords. So I tried to write a bunch of songs with 2 chords, but I failed at it. I always needed 5.
Well, 3 though. Artie, anything other than 3 has to be viewed with a certain amount of suspicion.
Yeah, I wrote a song called I did a song called "The Same 3 Chords Keep Coming Around Again," and that's what it was about. That it's still the same 3 chords, and that is rock and roll. Yeah. In fact, Denny Cordell is a very dear friend of mine, and when he brought me Wild Thing, and I love the work he did with the Kinks. Did you know Denny when you were in England?
No, I didn't know him, but my brother did. My older brother, Colin Earl, who was in a band called Mungo Jerry.
Right.
And he played with Denny, I think, for a while.
Yeah, Denny's...
They did some recordings together.
Great man, because I put Cocker into Woodstock. I came home to my house in New York, and there was a ticket, didn't say where it was from, and so I just got on the plane and flew to London. And when I got off, there was Chris Blackwell, Denny Cordell, and Noel Redding. It was just then they just said, we just want to pay back me mates, and I went on that tour and actually played in some of the Mad Dogs and Englishmen gigs with them. Yeah, we stayed at the we stayed on Marylebone Circle. I remember that. And I know, Bangers and Mash, right? That's a good name for a group, isn't it? Bangers and Mash, or Bang Her and Mash?
Bangers and Mash, yeah. Pork sausages and mashed potatoes, yeah.
And then you could say to her, honey, Kevin, ready?
No,
honey, hush.
Artie, you have to keep going, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying, why don't we put up Honey Hush?
Right. You have to keep going, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, you're not going to get this music on up with us talking. We've got the gift of the gab.
Right.
As soon as I can, I will let you know. You guys keep going. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just keep talking then. So you felt when that album came out, and what was is there one gig that stands in your mind as like where you felt that was your best, your favorite gig that you played? Was there in one particular place?
No, not really. Not one gig. I was always very fond of Chicago, for obvious reasons, because of the great music that's come out of there. New Orleans, again, because of the great music, and
right, Memphis,
probably because Memphis as well. In fact, I go to the Blues Awards every year down there, right, and probably because those three cities, I probably had far too much fun in them. They really know how to have a good time. In fact, at one time, I was thinking of moving down to New Orleans, and there was a promoter down there, Don Fox, from Beaver Productions, and we were looking for houses and stuff. This is back in like the mid-'70s. And then I said to myself, if I buy a house and live down in New Orleans, I'm never getting out of here. So I changed my mind on that.
Right.
You can have too much fun down there. So that's all right.
I did have too much. Every time I was there, I had too much fun. I had to recover from my fun the next day every time I was there. I mean, I remember when I had Survivor and the Tiger was out and we were playing New Orleans at the big place, and I just remember at 4 a.m. walking up Basin Street trying to get back to the hotel and just saying how crazy this place is. I mean, it's totally insane, but it's fun, And I knew the Nevilles, so I heard great music.
Who wrote Eye of the Tiger?
Peter Rick and Sullivan. I got him to think.
Jim Peterick.
When I got Survivor, they were
friends with Gene Peterick.
Yeah, Peter Rick. He was also the Ides of March. I'm Your Vehicle, Baby.
Right. I've
become
good friends with him over the years. He gets up, and any time we play around the Chicago area, he comes out and, if he's in town, he comes out and plays guitar on a couple of songs.
Well, I'm a real good friend of his
great
because
guitar player.
I took him when he was an unknown band playing high schools in Chicago, and I left after Eye of the Tiger was the #1 record in history. So he definitely has to like me for all the year and a half that I built an unknown band, and landed the record Eye of the Tiger, And then, you know what? And I always really did do it for the music. I was glad I made some money, but I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the music and the project. And if I represented someone, I felt like I was in the band. Otherwise, I shouldn't be there. So I have to understand,
Well, music's like that with you, isn't it? It sort of grabs you and everything else takes a back seat to the music. So, but I think that's about the only way that you become successful or you're fortunate enough to sort of earn a living at it, because everything else takes a back seat to it. I mean, that's how it was with me, and I think with most people. I mean, because, I tour, we do about anywhere, 60 to 70 dates a year, and I meet some fantastic musicians out on the road, and they're just, they get up and they're playing for free, or, playing local bars and clubs and stuff. They're great players, but you just have to be in the right place at the right time and never give up. Though, in fact, I always tell younger players these days, like, get a real job, so you have something to fall back on. I was a commercial artist for about the first 5 years of my, teenage years, but I had to sort of have a real job so that I could buy those cymbals and drums, and they're very expensive. Now they give them to me, which is nice.
Yeah, right. Free instruments.
Artie, I'm ready with the next track, sir. We have to skip. Where we were.
Well, that's fine. We don't have to know that, but let's hear "Honey Hush."
All right.
Listen to me, baby. I'll tell you what I need. Come on and spend some time with me. Come on, one night is all I need. Hey, give me satisfaction when you steady roll. Give me what you got and you can give me more. Come on, that's how it's gotta be. I need somebody, save your loving for me. I need somebody, save your loving for me. Oh, rock, baby. Come on, show me the games you play. Rock on until the break of day. Hey, let me come on, spend some time with you. I know a lot of things that we can do. Come on, don't give it all away. I need somebody, save your loving for me. I need somebody, save your loving for me. You're my day study. You're my midnight dream. You need love, I need love. Rock me, baby, till I scream. I need somebody, save your loving for me. I need somebody, save your loving for me. I need somebody, save your sweet love for me. I need somebody, save your loving for me. I need your sweet loving. Come on, come on, come on, baby. Give me some of your sweet, sweet loving.
Question: did you ever get to see? I was shocked because Cotton wrote about me in Google, and I was so complimented. He talked about how I helped him in Muddy in the early '60s, and I did.
Who's this?
Cotton. Remember, Cotton used to play with
James
Muddy.
Cotton?
Yeah, he.
Yeah,
I was shocked that I was in. I'm in Steve Gadd's Google. I'm in Cotton's Google. I must have done something right because these are all people I looked up to.
I used to see James Cotton. Remember the Joyous Lake in Woodstock?
Yeah. I
The
have
club, the
been.
Joyous Lake. James Cotton used to play there regularly.
I'll tell you, the owner was Ron.
Band.
The owner was Ron Merriam.
Ron.
Right.
Ron, and what was his wife's name?
Oh, I remember her. I can't remember the name.
It'll come to me. Hey, we're getting old. Anyway, James Cotton used to play there regularly at the Joyous Lake, and I was absolutely floored with them. They had the most incredible bass player as well. The drummer was really good too, but the bass player, he was outrageous. He could play some incredible stuff. In fact, I wanted him in the band, but Nick Jameson joined in.
Who was he? Do you remember the name?
No, can't remember his name.
I don't remember my name.
Great player.
Yeah, well, Crosby wrote that song, if I could only remember my name. But if you know Crosby, you know why. Oh, God, yeah. Well, I know my name. Let me ask you something. Hey, Kev, what do you have up next? Nervous Release.
Nervous Release.
All right. Let me ask you
what's this song all about? What's this song about?
Yeah, what is this song about?
It's that Nervous Release.
It sounds like it's about a nervous release.
Well, I don't know. Do you have children listening to this show?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then we can't talk about what it's all about. It's all about rock and roll doing the old...
Well, no, you got to talk about it. It's your duty as a soldier in Her Majesty's Navy. Why don't you just call the song Release?
Yeah, Nervous Release. It's all about doing it in out, real vicious like, and getting released. It's a lot of songs are about that, aren't they? In fact, rock and roll. I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? All the songs are about that, except Flat Busted Never Gas. That's not about it.
Yeah, rock and roll is an escape from. Rock and roll is really an escape from a terrible world right now, and there was always problems. And rock and roll, when it hit, was a place that starting with our generation, because we're the same age, and then going on to the following generations, it was really an innocuous escape and a way to groove in a world that wasn't grooving. Yeah.
Well, there would be no rock and roll if it wasn't for people like Chuck Berry and Willie Dixon. Well, definitely not for Willie Dixon or Chuck Berry. There would be no rock and roll if it wasn't for them. And a few others as well. Jerry Lee Lewis. Now, let's talk about Jerry Lee. I saw him about 2 months ago. He was playing at B.B. King's in Manhattan. And like I told you earlier, first show I ever went to see when I was like 14 years old, my dad took me to see Jerry Lee Lewis. I was never the same after that. My mother said, he addled his brain. He's 80, and he played great. I was 3 seats back, front and center, and there's Jerry Lee Lewis. He played great. He sang great. He seemed to have a really good time because from time to time he would, over the years, apparently, I've read that he wasn't always on time, but he was great this night. For somebody 80 years old, he played great. And it was, in fact, afterwards, I went backstage because I'm friends with the opening act, John Paris. And I was talking to John, and I said, did you get a chance to meet Jerry Lee? And he said, no. Then Jerry Lee's band come walking out, and I said hello to them and told them how good they played and how much I enjoyed it. And I said, do you think I could shake the piano player's hand? And they all laughed. They said, no, he's on his jet out of here 10 minutes ago.
Oh God. And you have that, and of course I was a Mercury, and I was the head of rock. So who did I have to take care of? I was the babysitter for Chuck Berry. And I'll tell you something. I would fly from New York to Chicago, where Mercury had their home base, and I would have a suite with Chuck Berry. And I'll tell you, I'm glad I'm not in jail. Chuck Berry was. What a trip to be with Chuck Berry. For me, just as a groupie.
There would be no rock and roll if it wasn't for Chuck. There would be no rock and roll
I couldn't.
If it wasn't for Chuck.
I can't believe the people that I know, because these are people that I worship, and they treat me like I'm an equal and a friend, and I guess they look up to me for whatever I've done, because I can't look at myself that way. I could just say, what can I do now at this stage? I'm an elder statesman in the industry, and I'm still going to keep music going, and Talk about keeping music going. Do you have intention? Are you cutting again now, or what are you working on now, or nothing?
So anyway, 1973, we're playing this big outdoor festival in Southern California. Might have been San Diego. Chuck Berry's on the bill, and I think I think Jay Giles and a few other bands, and Foghat. Now, me and Lonesome Dave are like huge Chuck Berry fans. So we say to our manager, "Hey, do you think you could see if we could get a picture taken with Chuck?" Anyway, you know the story about how Chuck, comes off stage and he has his car waiting for him. And true to form, he comes down the stairs. He's just finished playing. He's got his guitar case and he's walking along. Our manager goes over and says, "Excuse me, Mr. Berry, could a couple of members of my band take a picture with you?" Chuck says, "Sure, anytime." Keeps walking. And he's got a convertible Cadillac with a blonde sitting in the driver's seat.
And probably 12 years old.
Well, no, she was older than that. A lot older than that. There's a picture of my manager holding Chuck's arm and Chuck walking.
That was...
But I remember seeing How Rock and Roll, the terrific movie that Keith Richards put together for Chuck's. I think it was Chuck's 60th birthday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was the band I thought played brilliantly, which is probably one of the problems that Chuck doesn't doesn't worry about that. What was his piano player's name? Johnny Johnson, right?
Right, Johnny Johnson.
Yeah, great piano player, fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he had his band together, and he was together no matter what he did. I mean, that's Chuck Berry. They say who's the greatest guitar player, and people go Clapton, Santana, this and that. But we're talking about a whole other, way down inside your soul kind of guitar playing that someone like Chuck Berry could do. And Chuck Berry is the only one who could really play like Chuck Berry. People could copy him, but they could never get it. They could never get it right. Hold on a
second. No, Keith does a pretty good impression of Chuck Berry, I think.
Yeah. Well, my favorite drummer next to you, of course, is Steve Gadd's. Steve Gadd.
Steve Gadd?
Yeah.
I'm not in his league. He's on a totally different planet.
Oh yeah, he's on.
He's mere human.
Well, here's what happens. I'm doing my first solo album.
He's fantastic.
I'm doing my first solo album. I had a hit as a group, but I'm doing my first solo album, and Hugh McCracken is going to arrange it. And he says, 2 guys just graduated music school in Rochester, the Eastman School, Tony Levin, the bass player, and a drummer named Steve Gads, but they never played on a session. Artie, do you want to take the shot and book them as the drummer and bass? I'm giving you my word. And I knew McCracken, and McCracken was one of the best. I mean, he arranged The Thriller's Gone, for BB, and produced it with him. So it's like, I said, okay. And these 2 young kids walk in, and it's Tony Levin, who went on to King Crimson and a lot of touring work, and Steve Gads. And after one song, I just couldn't believe how I was pulled to the drums. He was so good, and we became very good friends. And I'm really happy that I had that friendship, because to me,
he is an incredible drummer. Plays brilliantly.
Yeah, I try to tell people, when I talk on the show, I try to tell them, there's another level. When people talk about great musicians, there's a bunch of musicians, and they're called studio musicians, and they don't have to tour to make $500,000 a year. All they have to do is show up for 3 hours a couple of times a day, and
make magic happen.
Right, for other people. Take other people's dreams and make them come true. Right? And you know about it because, it starts on the bottom. Because when I'm building up, I'll spend a day on the drums alone, and then I'll spend a day on just the drums and bass. It's funny how a lot of drummers don't tune their drums enough. Well, I hear it, but
it's really just Well, jazz, you could do that. Like when you're playing jazz, you can tune them to notes and stuff. And the drums, I use DW drums, and I think they're probably the best made drums in the world. They're absolutely fantastic. But it's really, I've seen drummers sit at the same drum kit and make it sound totally different. it's really, it's sort of how you do it. And I think, some drummers just have that sort of magic touch and they can just play beautiful, and other drummers, we're just sort of, mere mortals, where there are others that can really...
Yeah, well, on a record, every drummer should bring a basket of fruit and flowers for the engineer, because the engineer is really going to give you that sound where you really come out the way you're supposed to.
Yeah, that's true. I remember the first few sessions I ever did in the studio was when I joined Savoy Brown, 1967, 68, and it was really I was working with Thomas Baker was the engineer, and
he was good,
and he was absolutely incredible. He was at Decca Studios in London, and it was just incredible. Mike Vernon was the producer, but what was beautiful about Mike Vernon, he would put microphones in a huge room, big wooden room, and he would just put microphones all over the place. And the first few albums I did with Savoy Brown, everything had to be done in the first day. All the basic tracks, which would be drums, bass, guitar, probably and some lead guitar. Then they would overdub piano and or vocals. But everything had to be done the first day, so you had one shot. And I remember there was one song that I was struggling with on that first album. This is the first time I was in the studio. And Kim, the lead guitar player, comes over to me and says, well, you've got to get it right this time, otherwise we're not doing the song. So nothing like a little bit of pressure, is there?
No, nothing. It always helps.
Actually, Kim Simmons and I are still good friends. In fact, Kim is playing on our new album that we've just finished recording called Under the Influence. Tom Hambridge is our producer. We have Kim Simmons on there. Dana Fuchs is also singing on some songs. Scott Holt is singing and playing on some songs. We have a number of guests on this, so that should be out.
Well, I hope when it's out, you could get try to put an hour aside so we could talk and play 5 or 6 cuts from your new album when it comes out. You could do it from you could do it from the water. That's why you write songs with hooks, right? Because you're a fisherman.
Yeah, and I will be doing that soon. I'm getting the boat in the water in about 2 weeks. It should no more ice out there, so I'm probably safe.
Yeah, you should be living in the Keys.
That's about it, isn't it?
You should be living in the Keys. No, I think it's time to have a nervous release.
Pushing your number on the telephone.
Yeah, it's Artie Kornfeld back with the Spirit of 69. Why do I say the Spirit of 69? Just to enforce the fact that I wouldn't have anything to do with, nor did I have anything to do with Woodstock 2 or 3. I would never try another Woodstock, ever, ever. First of all, I didn't even know what I was trying anyway, because no one had ever tried it, and I had a partner in the same boat, and the crowd was the miracle, and Woodstock was a miracle. How do you feel about the Foghat album? Do you feel that it's your best album, the new one, or?
Hey, you give it your best shot. We always did that. Foghat always maintained like artistic control over what they were recording. Nobody sort of told us what to do or how to do it. I was always fortunate. I played, with great musicians. Always played with great bass players and great guitar players. So on that score, I was rather fortunate. Meeting Albert was, he was the only one that would sort of take us, and it's rock and roll. I don't think I have a real favourite album. I think probably the first record we made with Dave Evans is probably one of my favourites. But whenever you go in the studio, it's always exciting, especially when you've got a bunch of extra musicians. Like I was playing with Kim Simmons this time he played on 3 tracks on our new album. Scott Holt is singing and playing on 2 or 3 songs. Charlie Hune, our singer, is a fantastic singer and guitar player. Brian Bassett, our lead and slide player, is just an absolute genius. So I'm just real fortunate. I think I've been real fortunate because I've always played with great players and surrounded myself with great musicians. So sort of makes you look good.
Yeah, we had a psychic moment because just before you said that, I was about to say, and who's playing on the album with you, the new one? And you went right into it. It was like a psychic cue, right?
Yeah, well, actually, and Dana Fuchs, who is a fantastic singer, she sang in Across the Universe, and she also played Janis Joplin on Broadway for a while, and she's singing on a couple of songs with us. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's called Under the Influence. It's all about the songs and the music that's influenced us. We've done a couple of classics on there. We did Heard It Through the Grapevine, and a few others. There's a couple of Savoy Brown songs on there, and a bunch of originals. So every time I go in the studio, I say, no, I don't think I want to do anymore. And as soon as it's done, we go back in the studio and start working and writing. I'm just real fortunate, I love what I do, and I'm able to do it. What did I say earlier? I'm going to roll till I'm old, and what till I drop?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's that moment. I don't know if you have it. I have it every time I go in, and when it's right, when you play, you've done a song 7 or 8 times, and all of a sudden you do one rhythm track, and it's magic. You just know that you hit that, And that to me is one of the greatest feelings when the rhythm track comes together, in the studio before you record.
Well, that's because the producer is shouting at you, saying things like, "Get that thing right, boy, let's go."
Nah, that's the British style. I was more like John Lennon, like, you guys play much better than I do. Here's a song. I'm leaving the room for an hour. Here's some chord sheets. Write down what you like, and when I come back, I'll hear where you took the song. And then we'll compromise, and we should come out with something great.
Actually, I like staying for everything. Usually the first one in there, and I'm usually the last one to leave the studio as well.
Isn't it hard to leave? Don't you stay there?
It's exciting. It's thrilling.
Well, you know what? I can't leave the studio. I'll sit there for 2 hours sometimes. Like I used to at the record plant. I'd sit in that lounge on the 5th floor for like 2 or 3 hours after doing 14 hours in the studio. I just couldn't leave the studio.
Well, that's probably because you've been drinking too much vodka or tequila.
No, like I said, I'm sober 35 years, and it wasn't tequila that did it.
It wasn't? It
No, it was that.
You know what, Artie? I don't drink as much as I ought to anymore either.
Yeah, and I never drank, so maybe I should at going on 70. what am I? Am I 72 or 73? I lost track, but I'm somewhere in there. I know I'm 2 years older than you. So whatever you are, now
Right,
I forgot.
I'm going to be 70 May 16th. And in fact,
Yeah,
we're having a birthday bash out.
I'm 73.
We're
I
gonna
got 3 on you.
What?
I got
Good.
3 years on.
We're gonna have a birthday bash out here on, I think it's May 13th. We're playing at a club out here on Long Island, and all my family and friends are going to be there. And we're going to have 2 bands playing. It's going to be Earl and the Agitators. That's the other band that we work with. That's me and Scott Holt. And then Foghat's going to play. Then we're going to have a couple of Long Island bands come on afterwards. That's Dixon and somebody else. So that's going to be fun. And then the following day, we're going to have a party at our house, and we're going to set up in the yard, and we're going to invite all the neighbors. That's what you do when you set up and you play outside. You invite the neighbors.
Right. So, you know what? It's sort of at that point that it's time that we got to wind this down, and it's time for me to just say, I am really grateful that you came on, and not only that, I really enjoyed myself, and I enjoyed listening to the music again because, I hadn't listened to Foghat in about probably 10 years. So, I started to listen to your stuff, and it reminded me about why I liked the band in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you, Artie. I appreciate that.
And I can't wait to hear the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a wrap for us, and I'm going to go out with you with no hard feelings. And
okay.
I hope you don't mind if I know you're going to play near me, or I'm going to be near where you're playing up north if I give you a call.
Any time you want to come and see the band, just call Rose or Linda at the office, and they'll take care of you. I'd love to meet you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So God bless you, my brother, and keep on rocking in the not so free world.
Okay, bye, Artie.
All right, no hard feelings.
Come back, baby, talk it over again. Maybe we could still be friends. Cross your heart, don't you tell me no lies. Dry my crying eyes. If your heart is cold as a stream, why do you laugh at all of my broken dreams? There goes another goodbye scene. By now I should be wise. Love, you hit me when I was down. You had me chained and bound. Now you wanna smile and walk away. Girl, I tried to make it right. Now I'm too weak to fight. Baby, this is all I hear you say. No hard feelings, no need to take it so bad. No hard feelings, no love to be had. Maybe easy for you to explain. Falling out of love once again. Life's too short and you gotta be. There ain't no time for me. So I lay back here on my bed. No more tears to be shed. No confusion, I know what you said. Our love could never be. Love, you hit me when I was down. You had me chained and bound. Now you wanna smile and walk away. Girl, I tried to make it right. Now I'm too weak to fight. And baby, this is all can't barely see what love has done to me. So I lay back here on my bed. No more tears to be shed. No confusion, I know what you said. I love you never be. No hard feelings, no need to take it so bad. No hard feelings, no love to be had. No hard feelings, no need to take it so bad. No hard feelings, no love to be had. No, 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 no hard feelings, no need to take it so bad. No hard feelings, no love to be had.
This has been a production of the Spirit of Woodstock 69 radio show by the Woodstock Nation, Artie Kornfeld, and brought to you by the U-Rock Radio Network. And tune in next week for another episode of the Spirit of Woodstock 69 radio show.